Om Ganatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We have 11 initiates for Harinam Diksha, formal enrollment in the Academy of the Hare Krishna Mantra, and one second initiate, formally enrolling in manifesting Brahmana qualities and activities. To chant Hare Krishna is simple, yet it requires lifestyle transformation for reaping the full potential. And that full potential of chanting Hare Krishna is always increasing. As we become more and more purified, we realize that the more you chant Hare Krishna, the more the flavor increases. As you're progressing beyond the therapeutic stage, in which you chant because you have to, as we explained some days ago, by force of injunction. As you progress beyond that, you start to long for more opportunities and more time for chanting Hare Krishna. And chanting Hare Krishna means serving the Hare Krishna mantra by distributing its knowledge to others and inspiring others and counseling and guiding others to chant Hare Krishna. That is all Nam Seva, service to the Hare Krishna mantra. We've been speaking about our tendency to take the Hare Krishna mantra for granted, especially when in the beginning, when you first start chanting, you notice relief. It's like you've been in a blazing forest fire, Bhavamahadavagni, and then the fire is extinguished. Naturally, the first thing you feel is relief. But then you may notice as the years go by that same dramatic feeling of relief is not so noticeable by you. That's because it's time to progress beyond mere feelings of relief, and it's time to start developing attachment. Attachment to Krishna's service, to the Hare Krishna mantra, to Krishna's glories. You have to invest your heart into that. I am thinking of a Chaitanya Leela involving Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was, on this particular occasion, staying with a devotee that he favored very much, named Balaramacharya. Balaramacharya would host Haridas Thakur. He made him a bhajan kutir, a little hut for Haridas Thakur's constant chanting, solitary chanting. And Balaramacharya would arrange for the meals for Haridas Thakur. So one day Balaramacharya said, there's an assembly going on at the house of Govardhana Hiranya. That's the father and uncle of the future Raghunath Das Goswami. Please come. We'd like you there. The presence of a saintly person, such a saintly person. So when Haridas Thakur arrived, everyone began to glorify him because he's the Namacharya, the distinguished professor of chanting Hare Krishna. And they began to discuss the glories of the Hare Krishna mantra, because what else do you do when Haridas Thakur is around? So, as they were discussing the glories, they brought up various points. That chanting Hare Krishna frees you from all sinful reactions. And that chanting Hare Krishna gives you liberation. So Haridas Thakur, he's the Namacharya, the foremost professor of chanting Hare Krishna. He protested, wait. Let's hold this right here. Becoming free from sinful reactions and becoming liberated are just corollary or side effects of chanting Hare Krishna. You may remember in Chaitanya Charitamrita, as the verse, the Shikshashtaka comes up, right before the first verse, Chaitanya, Chaito Darpana Marjana. It's pointed out that chanting Hare Krishna extinguishes sinful reactions and initiates the flow of the waves of love of Krishna, of ecstatic love for Krishna. So Haridas Thakur pointed out, yes, just a glimpse of proper chanting, of pure chanting of Hare Krishna, extinguishes your sinful reactions and gives you liberation. But that's not the real target, the real aim, the real achievement of chanting Hare Krishna properly. The real achievement is ecstatic love for Krishna. So then Haridas Thakur quoted a verse about how when the sun of the holy name rises, immediately there's an effect. But that effect of the first rays of the sun doesn't compare to what happens when the sun is fully risen and it's broad daylight. So he broke down into two categories the effects of chanting Hare Krishna. Number one, because the audience asked him, can you explain this? First, actually, Haridas Thakur asked them, "O Pandits, O learned ones, please expound upon this point." They said, No. You explain it. Please, give us that mercy. So Haridas Thakur began to explain, using the example of the sun, which is so appropriate. Because, as you probably know, there are three phases or stages in chanting Hare Krishna. Nam aparad, when there are offenses, and we discussed this morning, Jadaivam Ijasa Mahajani Naraga. Although Krishna is fully present in the Hare Krishna mantra, because I'm making offenses, I don't have attraction. So, that first stage, offensive chanting, is succeeded by the next stage, namabhas. A glimpse, just the first rays of pure chanting. And that third stage is pure chanting, Shuddhanam. So Haridas Thakur pointed out that when the sun first gives a hint of its rising, and the first rays of the sun start to enter the sky, all fear of demoniac elements goes away. Fear of thieves and ghosts and all kinds of unsavory characters, criminals. Just the first rays of the sun send them all these unsavory characters running or into hiding. So he explained that just by the first raise, just the first hint that the holy name is approaching purity in its chanting, just the first hint of that gives you termination of all sinful reactions and gives you freedom from material existence. And then, using the metaphor of the sun further, after the sun has fully risen and it's broad daylight, you see everything clearly. Similarly, in the stage of pure chanting, as we explained briefly this morning, you see your original relationship with Krishna. You see Krishna on the pure and clean mirror of your consciousness. So Haridas Thakur was explaining in that way. Liberation is nothing. A real devotee doesn't even focus on freedom from material existence. And in explaining that point, Srila Prabhupada quotes the verse by Bilvamangala Thakur. Mukti Swayam Mukulitanjali Sevate Sman. That liberation is banging on the door of the devotee. But the devotee says, I'm too busy in service. Sorry, I don't have time to open the door. Now this is astonishing. Everyone wants freedom from material suffering, material miseries. But devotional service is so intoxicating and so enthralling that it minimizes the value of liberation. And as Lord Chaitanya points out further in the Shikshashtaka, Mama Janmani Janmani Isware Bhavatad Bhakti Hoitaki Tvai. I don't mind if by your will you want me to take birth again and again. I don't mind. But what I do always want is service to you. And as we explained the other day, that is back to Godhead. That attitude means one is back to Godhead. So as Haridas Thakur was explaining this point so beautifully, that just the first rays of the sun or the first glimpse of pure chanting is enough to finish your sinful reaction and give you liberation. There was one mundane speculator empiricist in the audience. And we said today how we may talk about Kamsa as described by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Kamsa as the master empiricist, the ruler of the empiricists. Meaning, knowledge is simply that which is experienced by your material senses. There's nothing else. So we explained this morning how that attitude of Kamsa was coupled with his hatred of or fear of Krishna. He wanted to exterminate any trace of non-material knowledge, non-material perception. So in the audience, while Haridas Thakur was explaining like that, was a very materially fortunate young person. Not a kid, but not old. Gopal Chakravarti. He was handsome, he was learned, and he raised an objection very angrily. Like, what is all this talk about someone getting liberation just by a dim glimpse of pure chanting? Do you understand what liberation is? Great yogis, mystic yogis, great metaphysical scholars spend millions of births trying to be liberated. And here you are saying that just by a glimpse of pure chanting, people can become free from material existence? This is nonsense. You are presenting the conclusions of the emotional devotee. This is Mayavad. This is impersonalism. And as we often explain, impersonalism is, you should always know, it's the default position in the material world. It's our default position. So Gopal Chakrabarti couldn't tolerate this. Do you know what liberation is? How hard it is to get. You have to be very austere, practicing severe austerities. You have to study. This is Brahman, this is not Brahman. This is temporary, this is permanent. It's arduous, it's rigorous. And here you are saying that not even perfect chanting of Hare Krishna, just a glimpse of that stage, will give you liberation. He was very angry. He felt that the whole ascending process of mental speculation and yogic powers, those processes had been offended by some emotional outburst. And you see remnants of that today, even though people have no grasp of the full Vedic picture, how there's mystic yoga, jnana yoga, mental speculation, jnana yoga, the path of karmic activity. They don't know all that, but they just will tell you, just chanting Hare Krishna does everything, huh? Really? What kind of la la land is this? This mentality is impersonalism. Just by calling someone's name, that produces massive transformations on the micro and macro level. Whether persons are in the Hatha Yoga world or the theological world or studies of religion, or it just sounds astounding. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, one achieves freedom from material existence. Do you realize what you're saying? And this impersonal attitude affects our devotees also. After the feelings of initial relief wear off, their chanting can slacken in both quantity and quality. And they're not saying it, but unconsciously they're thinking, there's got to be something more than this, and this is not really solving my problems. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out that this improper chanting is not immediately effective, and therefore doubts in you can arise. You may not say it, but you show it by your actions. The Mahamantra no longer occupies the pride of place in your life. Or if it does, you just do it mechanically and get through it as quick as possible because you have to. Or you just may stop completely, mumble a few rounds here and there, and convince yourself, well, the main thing is, I believe in Krishna. So you drag the bhakti practice down to the level of religious belief, which is not where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants it. So we're subconsciously affected by this minimization of the glories of the Hare Krishna mantra. We start to take it as ordinary sound vibration or religious sound vibration, something you do when you're in a religious mood or when you have the time for religion. Anyway, I'm a nice person. I'm not as sharp as I was when I was a young devotee, but you know how things are. I'm more mature now. So this is a shade of what Gopal Chakrabarti is insisting. There's got to be something more than that. You're an emotional devotee. Yeah, chanting Hare Krishna solves everything, right? Yeah. And he was very angry. Like, he was angry as if Haridas Thakur had like violated a prime reality. So he got so angry that he culminated by saying, look, if what you're saying is not true, he told that to Haridas Thakur, I'm going to cut off your nose. The whole audience was just horrified. Oh, Haridas Thakur is being offended in our assembly. Haridas Thakur took it very calmly. Being an exemplary Vaishnava, he showed tolerance and didn't show any reaction that he was taking offense. But the audience, they were devastated. There was an uproar. And Balaramacharya, who was hosting Haridas Thakur, immediately told him, you have offended Haridas Thakur. You can expect nothing good for yourself. And then the father and uncle of the future Raghunath Das Goswami, who owned the house where this assembly was happening, they told Gopal Chakrabarti, just get out, get out. And he was even under their employ as a tax collector. They told him, you're fired. We don't want to see you again. And after Gopal Chakrabarti made his exit, all the devotees gathered there, fell at the feet of Haridas Thakur. They took it at, this is our fault. We allowed this offender into our assembly. But Haridas Thakur said, no one is at fault. Not even Gopal Chakrabarti is at fault. What do you expect from Gopal Chakrabarti? He's a dry mental speculator. Do you expect anything else from him? He's just true to his colors. He's trying to understand the Hare Krishna mantra with his mundane, speculative intelligence. That will never happen. So, as many of you know, Gopal Chakrabarti got his reaction. Although Haridas Thakur was not offended, Krishna took the offense very seriously. And although Gopal Chakrabarti was handsome, youthful, learned, leprosy attacked his nose, and his nose fell off. And all his fingers, his beautiful, handsome fingers and nails withered up with leprosy. So what was Haridas Thakur's reaction when he heard that? Not, my enemy has been destroyed. No, he was sad. So much so that he decided to leave that place and go to another place, go to Shantipur to stay with Advaita Acharya. So yes, we quickly recognize that this Gopal Chakrabarti, he's an offender, right? But what about us in our approach to chanting Hare Krishna? What about the offenses we make, which signify or demonstrate how we minimize the glories of the Hare Krishna mantra? Even in a backhanded way, we take it at those glories as exaggeration. Either I do it because I'm forced, which is okay in the beginning, but we have to strive to make further progress. Either I do it because I'm forced, and that's the way it always is, or I don't do it at all. Yet, when a newcomer comes along, what's the first thing you tell the newcomer, besides you're not the body? Chant Hare Krishna. When it comes to us, well, you know, I'll get there. I'll get back on track. Just not now. So this is our problem. And this is why Lord Chaitanya says, Dodaivam ijasa mahajani nanaraga. Krishna's given everything in this dense darkness of Kali Yuga. Krishna's given the greatest mercy, but we're so unfortunate. We're not dedicated to developing a lifestyle that extinguishes offenses in chanting. Now, one interesting point that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes is that the best way to overcome offenses in chanting is to have a contrite heart. You know what contrite means? It's not a word that's used very often these days. There's just some words that have no impact these days. I often tell the story of when one high school class came to visit the loft back in the 90s when it was on Broadway in Newmarket. There were a bunch of 15 and 16-year-old girls. And so in the course of our discussion, I asked them, does anyone know what chaste means? And they all just kind of, huh? Sounds like a word we heard of, but one girl said, is that from the Middle Ages? So similarly, contrite means more than a humble state of mind, a state of mind of self-condemnation, which is definitely not cool these days. Self-condemnation? You're supposed to have high self-esteem, not low self-esteem. So contrite means practically there's anguish. Indeed, Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses that word, anguish. That I'm so unfortunate. He says that kind of attitude as you go on chanting helps to destroy offenses. You feel bad about it, but not in a material way. A material way means I feel bad about it, therefore I won't do it. I feel bad about it, I'm going to go on. And I feel the weight of my offenses and my anguish. And I'll keep on chanting Hare Krishna. That attitude is nothing to minimize. It minimizes your whole offensive mentality. And then the other thing that Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out in terms of minimizing offenses is simply constant chanting. The more you chant, the more your propensity for committing offenses reduces. This may be hard to understand. If I'm not chanting properly, isn't the best thing not to chant? I've actually heard that quite a few times. What's the use in my chanting? I don't have any taste. I'm making offenses, so what's the point? Maybe I should wait until I have a desire to chant and when I feel like chanting, and then I should start chanting again. No, you don't stop taking your medicine. And the more you chant, kirtan and japa, the more your eligibility for freedom from offenses happens. It's counterintuitive, right? You think, well, I'm an offensive chanter, so best I just keep my beads on the shelf. And why should Krishna hear my offensive chanting? No. Just by chanting more, you start to lose the desire or the propensity to make offenses. So you have the heart full of contriteness and anguish. I just can't believe I'm saying the same mantra that the Panchatattva says. It's the same mantra, but what a difference in experience. My mind is so wild, I can't even say 3 words, Hare Krishna and Rama, with concentration. So don't be discouraged by that attitude. That attitude is actually good fortune. Sometimes devotees tell me, I'm just tired of beating up on myself about my chanting. Look, I can't chant with attention, so that's that. That's the end of it all. Do you know how many years I've been beating myself up about my chanting? But this development of anguish and contriteness is very important. You continue chanting with that kind of attitude. I'm so unfortunate, but I'm going to go on chanting. And that humble attitude in the heart starts to reduce the offenses. So the last thing we'll talk about is another recommendation by our parampara, is that you try to isolate the offenses one by one, the 10 offenses. You see how each one of them can interfere with your bhakti life. So generally, for example, you all don't have to, unless you're from India, you don't have to deal with the offense of thinking Krishna's name is the same as demigods' names, because in the West, who knows what a demigod is? You don't have to worry about that hodgepodge. But what about offending devotees? And most of all, what about being inattentive while chanting? So the acharyas recommend that you isolate the entrance of offenses into your chanting one by one. And that shows Krishna, who is Namarupa, the form of the mantra, that shows Krishna that you're sincere. It's personalism. Just like if you're in a relationship with someone and you analyze, well, what are all the ways that I'm being insensitive? And you isolate all the possibilities. Who wouldn't like that? Everyone likes to be acknowledged and treated properly. So the Hare Krishna mantra is person, Namarupa, the Supreme Person. By your making an effort to isolate the offenses, instead of thinking it's hopeless, oh, it's never going to happen. Oh. By making the effort, you attract Krishna's attention. Especially because before you chant, you're taking shelter of the Panchatattva. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. The Panchatattva mantra is more powerful than the Hare Krishna mantra. So you might be thinking, well, then why don't we just chant the Panchatattva mantra on beads? But the Panchatattva say to chant Hare Krishna. We follow instructions. We take the medical prescription. But preceding kirtan and preceding japa, you take shelter of the Panchatattva, and then by their mercy, you go on, you start vibrating the Hare Krishna mantra. So these are some points that I wanted to raise about chanting, because 11 of you are taking first initiation, formal enrollment in the Academy of Chanting Hare Krishna. And for the one who's taking second initiation, that means, as Krishna explains in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Shamodama Tapashocham Chantir Arjavamevacha. The qualities of a Brahmana are so missing in the world today. There needs to be a head on the social body. That head means those actually with Brahmana qualities, Brahmana intelligence. All right. Who's helping me here? Thank you. Ready for names? Okay. I need the papers also, thank you. This is Como. We need Chirag's beads also. Okay. All right, Chirag, please come and make your vows. Out loud, please. Say pranam mantra out loud. So we'd like to acknowledge the devotees who have assisted in your spiritual development. That means Bhadrasena and Gitavali, who hosted you in their ashram 8 years ago, in your bachelor days, kept you out of trouble. And also, we'd like to thank Jai Shila Prabhu and Bimala Devi for their Grihastha guidance for Chirag and his wife, Komal. What are the 4 rules?
No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling.
And what to do every day?
Chant at least 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamant.
All right. We have an interesting name for you. It's from one of the holy places in Vrindavan that perfected devotees see. Around Govardhan Hill, Raghunath Das Goswami says, surrounding Govardhan Hill are 5 lakes. See, there's so much going on in Vrindavan that is not available to ordinary vision. So one of those lakes is named Brahma Sarovara Das. Your name is Brahma Sarovara Das. Komal. What other 4 rules?
No intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, and no illicit sex.
And what to do every day?
Chant at least 16 rounds.
Your new name is Gorika Sarovara Devidasi. It's another of the 5 lakes surrounding Govardhan Hill. 5 tirthas, holy places. So now we have the Sarovara family. Hare Krishna. All right, next comes Zoe. Her fan club is here, I see. Zoe has served very nicely in the Bhakti Lounge. And we'd like to especially thank persons who have assisted her. Kadiravan Devi and Krishnaloka Devi. We thank them for their efforts in raising this child. So what are the 4 rules?
No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling.
And what to do every day?
Chant 16 rounds tomorrow mantra.
Your new name is Veera Gopi Devi Dasi. Veera Gopi is a gopi in Vrindavan. Pia. Pia is from an illustrious family. That includes the famous Madhavi Lata and Prema Lata. And we'd like to thank those who have assisted Pia in her bhakti development. First of all, we mention Bimala Devi, her mentor. We thank Bimala Devi for the guidance she's given you. And then there's Yasomati, Krishnananda, and Gitavali. So you have many helpers. What are the 4 rules?
No meat, fish and eggs, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxications.
And what to do every day?
Chant minimum of 16 rounds tomorrow mantra every single day.
Your new name is Lavanga Lata Devi Dasi. Lavanga Lata is one of the transcendental flowers in Goloka Vrindavan that gives pleasure to Krishna, just like Madhavi Lata. Krishna has special flowers. So now the Lata family increases. Another one coming? Just now. Alex from Auckland. What happened to your Sika? You're not a Buddhist, are you? All right, so those who have assisted you, of course, you've been in the ashram supervised by Bhadra Sena and Gitavali for how many years?
Almost 3 years now.
Almost 3 years. We thank them for their selfless service And then you also get great help from Nitai Chand. Is he here? No, not here. And the famous Munjaranya Devi Dasi. Omnipresent Munjaranya. What are the 4 rules?
No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling.
And what to do every day?
Chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mantra.
Your new name is Shamanga Das. Just like there's Gauranga, there's Shamanga, one whose limbs are the color of a dark rain cloud. Alex from New Plymouth. All right, very good. So Alex from New Plymouth has been assisted in his ascent, his spiritual ascent, by Krishnaloka Devi and Madhava Mohini Devi. We thank them for their efforts. What are the 4 rules?
No intoxicants, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no meat eating.
Now that you mention that, you remind me, I was doing a program a few weeks ago in Hamilton, and there was one lady who had driven up from New Plymouth all the way to Hamilton to attend the program. And so I said, well, I know someone in New Plymouth who's practicing bhakti yoga. She said, oh, who? I said, you didn't know, there's this yoga teacher named Alex. Him? And, the thing that came out in her mind was, when he was a yoga teacher, he invited all the yoga teachers in New Plymouth over to his house for a barbecue, and I refused to go. And I said, well, that was another lifetime for him. He's completely different now. Really? Yes, our bhakti process produces such miracles. All right, you said the 4 rules, what to do every day?
Chant 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra.
Okay. Your name is Yoginath Krishna Das. Krishna is the true master of all the yogis, Yoginath. So Yoginath Krishna Das. Jade. So Jade has been assisted by Soumyamai Devi, Radhika Bhava Devi, Brajanari Devi, Krishnaloka Devi.
And Premalahari.
Any more? Premalari Devi. The whole infantry, huh? Oh, you were a woofer. You start off as a woofer here. Oh, and so Prema Lahari helped you in that way. When you were here, what brought you here? Why did you decide to come here woofing?
I was going to yoga lounge and met Sonia Mai,
Hmm.
and then
She was going to the yoga lounge at Vic Uni, and she met Somya Mai.
and then I decided I didn't want to be at uni, so I went traveling, but I missed Bhakti Lounge. So I came back to Auckland, met Diamaya, who sent me here.
Oh, so everyone has contributed massively. Diamaya in Auckland, and very good. So now you have great indebtedness. So what are the 4 rules?
No intoxication, no meditating, no gambling, no illicit sex.
And what to do every day?
Chant at least 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Your new name is Rasesri Devi Dasi. Rasesri refers to Shrimati Radharani, who's the actual controller of the Rasa Leela, not Krishna. Larissa. Out loud, please. So Larissa has been assisted by Krishna Loka Devi, Somya Mai Devi, and Madhava Mohini Devi. What are the 4 rules?
No meditating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex.
And what to do every day?
Chant minimum 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra.
Your new name is Tulavati Devi Dasi. Tulavati is a resident of Vrindavan, an older gopi. She's married to the cousin of Mother Yashoda. Tulavati. Okay, Dave. So Dave has been especially helped by Urmila Devi, my god sister, and then, of course, Bhadrasena and Geetavali. You stayed with them how many years?
2.5.
2.5. They're so kind to open their home to cultivate others. And they're very sacrificial in that way. What are the 4 rules?
No meditating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and no gambling.
And what to do every day?
Chant 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra.
Your new name is Vegavan Das. Vegavan is one of the sons of Krishna in Dwarka. Daria. Daria has been helped by Krishna Loka Devi and Krishna Murari Devi. We thank them. What are the 4 rules?
No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no illicit sex.
And what to do every day?
Chant at least 16 rounds of Mahamudra.
Your new name is Paradharma Devi Dasi. The supreme Dharma, Paradharma, as stated in Bhagavatam, Savai Pumsam Parodharmo Yato Bhaktir Dokshide Ahaitukhi Apratiyata Yanatma Supersedati. Harry.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pustaya Pujaya Srimati Bhagavati Swami Pachari Purva Bhaktachara Gavinata Paratatapi Karinyam Yasya Savi Tate Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pustaya Pujaya Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti.
So the famous Harry, famous for his cuisine, has been helped by a whole list. Bal Gopal, Ramdas, Gopal Guru, Mahavan. They've all had a hand in his spiritual development. What are the 4 rules?
No meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication.
And what to do every day?
Chant the Mahamantra for at least 16 rounds of Mahamantra.
Your new name is Balaramacharya Das. Balaramacharya was the devotee we mentioned in the pastime of Haridas Thakur. He took care of Haridas Thakur and was very favored by Haridas Thakur.